Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are back with our monthly meeting here, monthly discussion with my friends, Pia and Colin, my Palladian friends, as I like to call them. And we are here to talk about raising our consciousness, integrated consciousness. We're here to talk about how to raise our vibration and how to live in the world today. I think that's a really good way to put it, because certainly we are up for the task. So my name is Kornelia Stephanie, for those of you that don't know me, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. And let me introduce you to Pia and Colin. Hello, Pia and Colin.
Hi, Kornelia. Delighted to be back with you again.
We're always happy to be in this discussion with you, this dialogue that's so important for all of us.
Yes, especially I find right now, here we are, it's February 2021, and there's just, it's like there's two worlds playing out. And I feel like there's a lot of people right now, even the people that have awakened, and even the people that are the light warriors that know about what is going on. I find that even those people are having a challenging time right now dealing with the negativity that's going on and what we're exposed to. How do you feel about that?
I would say absolutely. It seems that the more sensitive of us are actually being impacted more than anyone else.
We notice that a lot of times it seems that everybody we talk to is having issues rise to the surface. It feels like the energies that are coming in that we know are here to transform us and to help us make us stronger, better, wiser. We understand that the energies of that purpose, but it sometimes seems like what happens is they pull anything that is residual dark or trauma to the surface, so that our weaknesses can come up to be healed or transformed. So everybody, in our opinion, is having some challenge at this time.
We're hearing stories from many people around the world saying, my gosh, I thought I was finished with that. I thought I had taken care of that work. I thought I had absolutely finished that shadow part of myself. And we're finding that people are actually in the final stage of finalizing and refining who they are. And so these little pieces that hopefully had been taken care of are shining their little faces in places that we did not expect.
And it's not always emotional either, or even interpersonal. Sometimes it hits us on a physical level. An old injury will crop up. I had a car wreck back in the 1980s, and I've been fine all these years after the car wreck. And in the last week, all of a sudden, my old injuries started acting up for no reason. I didn't strain anything. I didn't do anything. They were just there, and I had to work with it. So it's showing up physically, mentally, emotionally, in relationships, in work, in our jobs, in our houses, with things tearing apart, falling apart. It's showing up in all kinds of ways.
Yeah. It just seems like, like what you just said, old issues are coming up. I got a call from a client the other day saying that, the work that we did around the panic attacks, they came back up. The panic attacks. I thought I was done with that. I thought I was done. I thought I had this handled with the panic attacks. And now the panic attacks are coming back, or they have come back. And so then I asked the question, what did we used to do when they would come up? What did we used to do? What was the practice? What was the work of what we did during those moments and during that time, and brought the person back into the eternal now moment? And with the consciousness of what you just said, Colin, that it's the final purge. It's the final healing to bring that piece into that part into wholeness. But I also find right now, with so much, my gosh, like so much negativity is exposed that it's really, really challenging, even for the adept light workers, light warriors, to keep their vibration high. And, you know, with all the systems, everything changing, all the different ways on how we communicate and how we relate. And so many people are wanting the truth, are wanting to, they are exposed to the truth. Yet when they speak their truth, some of them are, some of their channels are shut down. They're being censored. So there's all these things going on too. So there's so many things that we're being faced with right now that is really asking us all to what? Asking us all to what?
Step up.
Do it differently. I think one thing that we can do is take a very brave step to step away from those who are trying to manipulate and control us. I mean, if somebody's site is taken down, look at what they're trying to prevent going out into the world. One of the steps that we are taking is we are disengaging from Facebook, because Facebook is one of the ultimate controllers. So even though people love to connect on Facebook, we're taking a step back and saying, no, we're going to disconnect this. There will be other opportunities and other ways that will present themselves for us to stay connected. We don't have to do it just because they have handed us this and said, here, do this, it's easy. So I think in this time that we're experiencing all these challenges, we have to be courageous. We have to take steps that we don't know where they're going to lead. We don't know what's going to come in place to take the place of what we've lost. We just have to do it and trust.
And this is a really big challenge, because so many people have been so involved and so immersed in social media for so many reasons, very good reasons, very connective reasons. But there's also been an aspect that psychologists and people who are truly looking into what's going on at this point in our human evolution, and there's a lot of talk, and I think a lot of it is reliable, and I think a lot of it is accurate about the habitual use or the addictive use of things that make our lives easier. And part of the courage that Pia was talking about a minute ago is looking at, can I be okay? Can I be safe if I step away from things that I really do know that possibly are not good for me? And some of the social network platforms we know were designed as a surveillance tool. And people don't want to hear this. And Pia and I talk about this a lot. And there are many, many people who look at us and say, well, my whole life is arranged around social media. My whole business is arranged around social media. How can I proceed without being able to use that avenue of communication? And Pia mentioned a minute ago that we have to invent new ways. And there are people around the globe who are figuring out how to design and manufacture new ways of communicating that are much safer, that are much less involved with control issues. So I think the word courage has to keep coming up over and over and over again.
And as a psychologist, I have to point out the fact that Cullen's looking and talking about the very important aspect about the control and about the spying aspect of these social media things. But I want to point out the fact that they have intentionally separated people. People think, oh, look, I have so many friends now, but they aren't friends. They're contacts. They're people that you may share ideas with linearly across a platform. They're not people you can have a meal with, give a hug to, sit down and have a cup of tea, hold your hand when you're not feeling well. You're just using words on a platform with somebody that you really haven't even been in their energy most of the time. So as a psychologist, I think these social media things are actually quite damaging to the human psyche. And if we're going to evolve into a higher species, a higher vibratory way of being in the world, we have to let go of it. It might hurt, but it won't hurt for long once we figure out how to do it differently, because necessity is the mother of invention, and we will figure out how to do it, not only differently, but better.
Yeah. I love that we're talking about this, because I'm facing this right now myself in my business with my Kornelia Stephanie Media. All of the, I support consultants and entrepreneurs to grow their brand through podcasting and video marketing. And so a lot of the platforms that we've used is Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of those, and and even Twitter. And so now what's happening is I'm also being faced to face this now and find the courage that you're talking about, Colin, to take that courage. And because everything that is not sustainable, that is not the truth, that is not aligned with our highest expression, with our highest truth, needs to be redefined, needs to be let go, needs to be released, because we're here to liberate the inner self, right? And to live as free beings, this is our truth. This is our birthright. This is our divine right. Sovereign free beings living in harmony with our true nature. And that's my quote, really, is the quote that I always like to bring to the show. I'm bringing one of my own, and that is, set your compass to your true north, the direction of your higher power, guiding you in building your new world in connection with community, for community, because love is the action and peace is the way.
Love it, Kornelia. That's beautiful.
That's goosebump. That's goosebump material.
Goosebump. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we have to do.
And go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, the whole idea of unity, which is part of what we talk about whenever we're together with you, is the idea of unity is all about the removal of separation. And it can be a little bit confusing at this point, because when we talk about stepping away from some avenues of communicating the way we have been through social media and other ways
that have the illusion of connection, but not the reality of connection,
that difference in the understanding of true unity is something that we're striving for. It's so important. And what the quote, your own quote that you just gave all of us, is all about that. And if we can do our best to unify ourselves, but not unify ourselves in a way that we have been given these tools that maybe we're not really above board or really for the best or the highest good for all of us. And that's the vision, and that's the sight we have to develop, is looking into our hearts, using our hearts instead of our minds, or instead of our outward personalities, thinking about, well, this makes my life better. This makes my life easier. I'm afraid we have to look a little bit deeper, and we have to look a little bit more honestly at what we think makes our lives easier. And I've already said this a few moments ago, but I think it's really important to reiterate the idea that in a unified field, we can use many other tools that we have forgotten about. We're all intuitive. We're all empathic. And some of us use those tools much more regularly than others. I think what we have to help people understand is we all need to step back. And I don't mean back in a negative way. I mean step back to the gifts and talents that we all possess. And using our intuition and using our empathy opens up a field where we can communicate telepathically. And many of us realize during the whole COVID lockdowns, shutdowns, mandatory changes, many of us are actually being able to communicate with each other in a nonverbal, in a non-technical way.
But you can't do it if you're glued to the internet. If you're glued to watching everything that's going on the internet, you're not giving yourself the space and the creativity for those gifts to arise.
You're not using those muscles that we have let go in the absolute adoration of technology. Before technology happened, I mean, I'm even speaking 300 years ago when the original Industrial Revolution happened, not the new technical revolution since World War II, but the actual stepping away from nature and becoming involved with machinery that absolutely took us away from our normal connection with nature, our normal connection with day, night, seasonal changes, all of the things that were such a part of our humanness, such a part of who we were, being connected with nature and realizing that we were nature. So I think what we have to do when I say step back is really truly look at what capabilities we had, how we were able to know that pre-telephone, pre-television, a neighbor was going to walk into our village and know that we already knew this person was coming.
And not only that, they might have needed something from us and we would have it available and ready.
That was part of our nature. That was part of our...
That was goosebumps.
Yes.
That was goosebumps.
That was part of who we were. And I mean, in 300 years of so-called technology, we have stepped away from so many gifts and so many talents that we all possess. And I think it's high time that we re-immerse ourselves in those gifts and talents because they are our birthright, they are our very nature. And as we make choices to do different things in possibly older ways, and I know that sounds funny, do new things in older ways, but I think it actually makes sense.
Yes, I love that. That's a really good thing to contemplate. Do new things in older ways. Yes. No, I feel like, you know, we are at a brand new beginning again now, a brand new beginning that, like you said earlier, just do it. Take that courage, take that step, and really be honoring of what the change that you want to see in the world. You know, the disconnection that we've all had with, you know, connecting with each other. We need each other. We need to express love to each other. We need to be with each other. We need to be affectionate with each other, right? And right now, it just feels like more and more people are so frightened and disconnected, you know, because of this whole COVID thing and the masks and all the things that it just feels like this is what it's showing us so that we can again make different choices.
Absolutely. You've hit on something that's really important. We've become virtual beings instead of real beings. We have used technology to communicate, even as we are right now. The goodness of what we're doing right now together is wonderful. Mm-hmm. But this is virtual. This is not real. I cannot reach my hand out and touch you. And touch is so important. Touch is so important. So I think our biggest challenge is to realize that being virtual through technology is not really what we're about. And Pia and I have watched and read a number, actually many papers on the fact that children, the earlier they begin their use of computers, begin to lose natural abilities of touch. And one of the most important things is eye contact.
They lose their sociability.
They don't know when they're not on a computer in a virtual sense, when they're with someone else, they have trouble actually looking each other in the eyes. And I know from who I am and the work I've been involved with all of my life, we have to be able to look in each other's eyes, because that is a conduit for absolute important connection between our hearts. Looking into each other's eyes is an avenue. It's a way of seeing each other in a deep, deep way. And so when P and I read these papers and we're around kids who have been totally indoctrinated into the computer age, we notice that the eyesight, the way they speak is so clipped, because the use of the language that we've used for so long is becoming shorter and more abbreviated.
Text-like.
Yes, text-like. And we're noticing that that's changing society dramatically. It is really, really, really making us virtual beings, not human beings.
The disconnection and the fear that you're talking about, Kornelia, is fed by this, because we're being disconnected more and more and more, and we're allowing it. We don't stand up and say, no, I'm not doing that. Or not many of us do. I could name off on two hands a number of people I know that are saying, no, I won't wear my mask. No, I won't do that. And they're doing just fine. They're not having any problems with it. And they just stand up and people don't argue with them. But most people are afraid to do that. There are many kinds of fear around that. They're afraid that the virus is going to kill them. They're afraid they're going to be reprimanded. They're afraid they're going to be fined. You can name all kinds of fears around it. But when we said earlier, we have to have the courage and just take a leap and do it differently and wait and see what happens. That's what everyone needs to do. That's what Cullen and I are doing on a daily basis. And a lot of people we know are beginning to do that. So the way is going to come forward of what comes next.
Yes, there's an upsurge of people deciding that what they're being told and fed may not be absolutely the truth. And I don't know if you've seen this in the news, the alternative news, because it's certainly not on mass media news. In Italy recently, 70,000, let me repeat, 70,000 restaurants have gotten together, reopened, and those restaurants are now completely open, outdoor and indoor, and they're saying no to the rules that the government and the medical community is saying you cannot be open for business. What's happening is when the police or the medical, I don't know what to call them, the governing bodies, when they come to the restaurants and say, we are going to close you, not only do the owners of the restaurants, but the clientele are standing up and saying, no, go away.
No, you're not.
We don't believe you. You're not welcome here. And the government, whoever it is, medical or police, are walking away from these restaurants, realizing there's nothing they can do.
The owners are also saying, if you want to fine us, go ahead and fine us. We won't pay it, but you can give us a fine if you want to. So basically, they're stopping the process. But it took 70,000 of them doing it in unison to make a difference. And that's what we have to do.
And that is an absolute turning point towards the understanding of unity.
Yeah. And that's really the key. Now, I'm curious, what alternative news do you know the name of it, or is it?
One of the things that we like to watch is nexusnews.com.
nexusnews.com. Yeah. Because, like you said, Colin, in mainstream media, they would never, talk about this, mainly because it's all controlled. It's
Yes.
all, you know, the mainstream media is all for manipulation, control, and manipulation. So they're only going to feed you and tell you and program you, because really that's the big thing, is they are programming you. It was interesting when I posted on social media, on Facebook, you know, I don't know if I talked to you guys about this already, so please forgive me if I did. But I said, you know, I had made the announcement to, you know, make peace with Trump supporters, make peace with Biden supporters, that, you know, make peace with these people. And then I put a beautiful forgiveness practice that is really helpful, that I use and that I love. And I got so much, you know, projection, so many different, you know, points of view. In the beginning, when I first shared that, there were a few people that got it and they were like, oh, this is great. Thank you so much. Yep, this is exactly what we need. And then came the stones, right? And it was interesting because even the people that I thought, you know, that were, you know, of spiritual and that were enlightened and that were standing for the truth, were now speaking the same language as the news media. Mm-hmm. That's where I was seeing that sounds like that. That sounds like that. That sounds like this. Well, you are saying these things that the media is saying to you, and you're saying these things to me.
That's right. I do pick it up. You ask about news sources also. Nexusnews.com does not come from the United States. Most of the news comes from Europe, but you can get it where you are. You can get it. There is a source in America that has alternative news also. They put up links in a different way, but there's a man named Ross Pittman, and his site is collectiveconsciousness.com. And he puts out all kinds of informative things that are alternative that he gathers from different places. So those two sources should be helpful to all of your listeners.
Good. That's good, Pia. Thank you. So yeah, isn't that interesting? And I had to really sit back after all of that came out, and I had to think about how do I want to respond to all of the negativity? How do I want to do this? And at first, you know, it was like, you know, because we can choose the battles we want to fight. We can choose the things that we want to engage in and whatnot. And I thought, well, this one I will speak to. And it took me a while to write out my own inner sovereign authority of what I see, right? To put it all on and then post that again and speak to and put my truth and my voice there, so that I can bring a balanced perspective from my own inner sovereign consciousness, right? And but it was interesting to see the division. It was interesting to see that the blaming and the side taking that people are doing. We're doing.
There's an old saying that the controllers are absolutely utilizing to separate us. United we stand, divided we fall.
That's
and
good.
They're doing everything they can to make us take the stance of fighting and division. They do not want us to unite on any front. And the front that we most need to unite on is doing it a different way, not fighting who's right and who's the better candidate or who's going to do this or that, but uniting on how do we do this a better way. That's the most important thing.
That is.
From the old.
Yeah. You know, when you're talking about 70,000 people, did you say in Italy?
Yes.
Yeah. So 70,000 people in Italy got together and chose their sovereign rights that stood up to the old system, the old programming, the old unsustainable, controlling reptilian energies that we've had to face, that we've been living by for thousands and thousands of years, right? And now is the time, like you said earlier, that perfect word to use is courage. And when you have, when you have the courage of a community that share the same values, that share the same goal to be free, to be sharing their love and their passion and their human birthrights with each other, that are in alignment with true nature and standing up to those controlling systems, that is what's happening now. In all ways, in the healthcare industry, in the school systems, in the governments, in all of these things are all up on the table right now, which is why there is so much darkness. And then I also saw that, so many more young people are committing suicide. That number is rising. And I think it goes directly to what you were saying, Colin, with the disconnection that people feel and the lack of affection and looking someone in the eye.
Yes, society, I mean, this whole production, this whole agenda, whatever we want to call it, it's been going on now for almost a year, has separated people in so many different ways that have never, ever happened before to humanity. We've never had this kind of wholesale control. We've gone through many, many problems. We've gone through world wars. We've gone through famine. We've gone through financial upheavals. We've gone through so many things, but never, ever has it been concentrated in this way, where, as you just said, it is connecting all systems. In the past, it was isolated. It was only part of the financial world or the medical world or the food supply world, or whatever separate entity was affected, it was looked at, figured out, taken care of. But now this is actually happening across the board to every system. And that is why it's so big. And that's why it's so important that we move together in the courage through our heart spaces to actually do something that will make a difference.
Yeah, I just feel like we've come so far, in this 1 year of awakening, because so many more people through COVID, all of it. Initially, we can see that whatever darkness played out, it all served, right? It all served the awakening. It served the light. It served the remembering. It served to unify. It served to coming home. It served its time, like Facebook, right? That was it's serving a time. It served. It was fine, and then new choices, new ways to communicate, new systems are all being put in place with us choosing, are they aligned with our values? Do they represent our truth? Are they in integrity with our heart? Are they honoring of the people? Or are they from the past system of control, manipulation, untruths, and all? I just know that there's so many people, on Facebook, so many entrepreneurs on Facebook that are using Facebook for their business, for their livelihood. So when you're talking about that courage again, Colin,
there's another way already building. I was talking to our tech help yesterday, and she said there's a new system called MeWe or WeMe or something like that.
Yep.
I'm familiar with it, but she said that's already being built. What I suggest is that people not do the typical thing we do. We're shoppers. We like to look and see what do we have now and what else is available before we jump. I suggest we don't worry about what's going to be available. We resonate with what we need to make a change. We resonate with something needs to change and just let go of what is harmful to us.
Yeah.
And trust that the opposite that's better for us will show up.
Yeah. And I think that's a really big, important point, because that's really how we transcend fear. Right there. with exactly what you just said, Pia, right, Colin?
Trust is such an important element here. It's important always, everywhere, but the topic, the subject matter we're talking about right now, we've used the word courage, but I think trust is equally important because of what Pia just stated. We can't wait until something new has been formulated. We can't hold on to something that doesn't work, going down with a sinking ship. We have to jump and let go of things that we know don't work. And as we do that, the safety net that everyone wants to believe they have will actually cradle us, because if we have the courage and the trust to let go of what doesn't work, we're going to jump into an unknown place where people are frightened of. They just don't want to do that. But in doing that very thing, they create what comes next.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. I'm going to be one of those people that I'm now facing this, and I will now be making choices that reflect what you just talked about, Colin, because I know that in order for me to be authentic to myself, really, that is now the next step. And so I'm glad we brought this up today. You know, when you're talking about trust, you know, living on this planet in duality and now moving beyond duality, the opposite of trust is betrayal and the energy of betrayal. And right now we can see all the betrayals that are playing out. So if the person is triggered by these people lied to me, this system let me down, this friend let me down, this person betrayed me, this situation, you know, the betrayal, and they're experiencing that, the way to transcend and bring the trust in is release that betrayal. Mm-hmm. And then in that present moment, in that eternal now moment, then choose to trust yourself, trust your heart, that you are fine and that you are here and that you're trusting yourself, your higher path. You're trusting in the divine plan unfolding, even though you don't know how it's going to turn out, but that's what faith and trust is all about, is trusting in the unseen. That is what it is. So this is an important piece right now for all of us in this new uncertainty, because we don't know. You know, and part of our human mind wants to have it all sorted out, wants to, you know, and, you know, wants to know when is the event, when, what, you know, wants to know where, you know, to go. But like you said, if you're taking a jump, you know, you have blind faith and trust that you will fly and that you will land.
Yes, and we land, and we will. Part of the illusion, Kornelia, is that people think if they know something, they're more in control. They're not, because that change all the time. And whatever you know that's supposed to be about the future, it's about something that's imaginary, because the future's not here. The only true knowing is what the heart tells you in the present moment. That is the only place where you can get true knowing. So if you can trust in that, trust in what you're being guided to do right now. It doesn't matter what the future is going to hold, because you're going in the direction you need to go. Yeah. That's when you can take the leap, and you know that the ground will come up to meet you.
This is huge. This is a huge element or a huge factor in what's happening today worldwide. People do need to understand that the mind is part of our internal control mechanism. We're not just being controlled by the outside. The blaming, as you said earlier, about blaming this element, that element, we also have to look inside and realize that the mind tries to control our safety.
Yes.
And it's impossible. Both of you have just talked about this. It's a huge, huge piece of the puzzle. We cannot try to control what we think is going to happen in the future. As Pia just stated, the future hasn't happened yet. The future hasn't been formulated. So having our minds think, well, if I do this, I'll be safe. Or if I don't do that, I'll be safe. It doesn't really work, because the only safety, as we've all discussed today, is in our hearts. Mm-hmm. So by trusting our hearts and realizing that the mind is a good part of who we are, we can't discount the mind. The ego and the mind do help us be safe to a certain extent, and to use some logic in keeping ourselves balanced. But it's not the most important guiding element. The most important guiding element is the wisdom of the heart. So trying to figure out, should I invest in this? Should I move to this new place? Will I be safe if the investment works out? If I move to this new place, will I be safe from hurricanes, volcanoes, drought? There's no way we can figure that out through the mind. It just won't work in that fashion. So we have to live day by day. We have to live by trusting our intuition. We have a friend that told us years ago, this is a wait and see environment that we're in.
That's beautiful. Wait and see.
Because we cannot predict, we cannot forecast any kind of safety in the future. It just doesn't work. It simply is not a rational way of leading our lives. But if we live day to day and wait and see, new things come. It's not just the challenges that we have to face, new opportunities, new wonderful, beautiful things are there waiting to show themselves. But we can't hurry the river. We can't hurry the process.
Colin and I have been champions for taking huge leaps all of our lives, individually before we got together, and then certainly after we got together. You know, not knowing what's around the corner, but going, well, this isn't working. I'm stopping. Always, it has led us to something better. In fact, taking those leaps individually is what led us to the beautiful relationship we have together now. So it always works to discard. Even if you don't know what comes next, discard what isn't working, discard what's not in harmony with your heart, what's not for your evolutionary path and your highest good. Get rid of it, because the minute you do that, you are creating the future.
And we're seeing this across the world. People are leaving relationships. People are leaving jobs. People are leaving their so-called blood families, thinking that that was the most important connection for them, the biggest safety net. People are leaving all manner of old paradigm safety nets. And it's certainly scary for them. And it certainly makes them have to wonder, am I doing the right thing? But I formulated something that I think is very funny, and I think it's very accurate. And I may have mentioned this.
We need some humor, Colin, please.
We do indeed. I formulated a little theory a long time ago, and I've shared it with people along my path. And I think we have to be 50% excited and 50% scared about any new thing that we do. And that keeps us in a place of the excitement of, wow, this has absolute possibility. This has absolute, I don't know how to say it. This has absolute possibility of bringing me to something absolutely new. Potential. Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. But the other 50% of, I'm going to be scared because I'm not familiar with this.
That's the process of letting go.
And that is the process of letting go and surrender in the jumping towards the excitement of, what can it bring me next?
We have another friend that says, what could be better than this?
Oh, yeah.
Everything is going wrong. Instead of saying, oh no, what else is going to happen? She immediately turns it around when something goes wrong and says, okay, what can be better than this? And moves forward with that.
Yeah, I love that one too. That one was, what can be better than this, is from Access Consciousness. I think is where that slogan, that what can be better than this. I remember that during the 2012 realm, when Access Consciousness, those what can be better than this was definitely going around, and that's a good one to, you know, bring into right now. Humor is a good one to bring into right now. The eternal now moment, to remember that right now is all we have. And so even when you know, the mind is asking questions like, will I be safe? Will I be okay? Ask yourself the question, am I safe now?
Mm-hmm.
And you will get the answer.
Yes, that's
you
true.
will get the answer, am I safe now?
And the
that right there, right?
Question that goes right along beside it is, am I happy now?
Am I happy now?
There are people who perceive that they have to stay where they are, even though they're very unhappy, because they perceive that it's safe. But those two really have to go together. You have to be happy to really feel safe, I think. I don't think you can have a false sense of safety. You know, living with somebody who doesn't support you, you may have a roof over your head, but if you're not emotionally supported, what kind of safety is that? So I think you have to ask both. I think they're
That's
both
good. Am I happy? Yeah, you know, choose a happy life.
Yes.
Now. Choose a happy life now.
Yeah.
Yes.
It takes
your slogan.
It takes so much energy. If we're not in a supportive place, if we're not in a happy place, if we're not in a place that's emotionally balanced, it takes more energy to keep us in that state, which robs us of our natural life energy. If we take ourselves out of an unhappy or non-supportive place, we have so much more energy to do what we're here to do. So many people fall into that depressive place where they just don't feel like they can handle what's going on. But if they simply make adjustments, or if they simply talk to the people around them about, well, I'm not sure this is working for me or any of us. Can we do this differently? Can we approach this relationship or this situation in a different way that has more positivity or more support? It can make the biggest difference in the world. But people are often afraid to rock the boat. What Pia just said about having a roof over your head and feeling a false sense of safety crushes us. It absolutely robs us of the opportunity of our lives.
You know, so many good nuggets we've shared here today that we can definitely share with our communities, and hopefully this will support you on your path right now that you're going through, that you have the courage to face the fears, face the negativity, face the depression, face the mind that wants to control you. And I always like to say, you know, the mind is great for calculation, right? Mm-hmm. To calculate things, like to figure, you know, using the mind as a calculator. And then once you do your calculations, once you do that, then let go and go back into your heart creativity, like you so well put earlier, Colin, about, you know, listening to the guidance of the heart. And that's what we all need to do right now. And when we're faced with any type of fears that are coming up into the present moment, into the eternal now moment, which is the only time we have, which is really the only time we have, this eternal now, that we are courageous enough to live in the now and bring that consciousness that conscious choice into the now that will support you on your path. I found that when I was faced with attacks per se from the outside, where, you know, my website was attacked and taken down and all the various things that were going on, and I was being attacked by different entities and different things like that, I found that this is what I learned through that experience, is that the best action I could take is never planned. It's always spontaneous. Spontaneous action, because it's not planned. It's not told to anyone. It's not known. Mm-hmm. It's not known. And so the best thing that I could do in my empowered sovereign self is show up in the moment when I have that intuitive, inspired action, and then go from there. And that's what I learned through that experience, and how everything is serving us to unify.
Spontaneity is one of my favorite words, favorite concepts. And I think there is far more security in spontaneity than there is in the control of thinking you're planning things out. So yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited. I think we grounded in some wonderful, beautiful energy today. How do you all feel about that?
I think it was a fantastic conversation on some really important points to share with people.
I think some of the ideas we tossed around were, let us say, challenging, and yet I think speaking them out loud is of the ever most importance right now. So we can talk about these things, intersperse humor and anecdotal experiences within them, but I think speaking them is one of the most important things we can do, because we have to communicate about what's happening, not ignore, not blame, not justify, not do anything except talk about it, communicate with each other about it. And I think that lessens the effect of the darkness all by itself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's wonderful. It's bringing that light into that space itself. That, again, it reminds me again of that, of the mother energy, is bringing the mother present to all the darkness and being present with all of it, talking about it, being present, offering our love to it, offering our understanding, offering our just pure presence, our beingness, right? And that is so valuable. And the other thing that's so valuable is connecting, looking someone in the eye, looking your children in the eyes, and being present with them for 10, 15 minutes, because they really need that from you.
It's important. It's supremely important. And what you just said a moment ago is equally important. Bringing the light wherever we can is expansive. It is expansive. It is creative. It holds us. And when you use the term mother, bringing the light forward holds us in a way that we need to be held at this time. We all need to be nurtured. And the light and the light and the love that's available is that nurturance, is that sense of a mother holding a child. And there's great safety in that itself.
Yeah. And you know, that's like right now almost brought tears to my eyes when you were talking, Colin. We all, you know, we need to be nurtured, because really, truly, that's how I feel in this conversation with you, both of you, is I feel nurtured, I feel seen, and I feel loved I feel valued, and I feel appreciated. And that's what we all need. And I hope that the audience receives that energy that we are transmitting, that vibration, that frequency that we're transmitting here, and that will nourish you, that will soften and support you in this time of great change.
We have no doubt that is taking place.
Absolutely. And
Wonderful.
we feel seen, heard, and nurtured by you as well as loved. So thank you also. It's just flowing between us.
We sometimes say that we're being fed, that we need to be fed by each other. And surface conversations, chit chat, things like that don't feed us. But deep conversation like this that's taking place between us every time we speak with one another do feed us. And it's really important.
Yeah. So this is wonderful. Now that we're going through the month of February, we'll be back together again in March. And it's interesting because I already know by that time I'm going to have some amazing things to share, because I'm now going to evaluate everything that I am going to be taking action on. Of course, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I won't do that. But I will definitely have a lot of exciting new things to share when we meet again next month.
Together we're changing the world, Kornelia.
Yes, absolutely. And these conversations are helping all of us integrate what's truly most important to us.
Yes. You know, I was thinking about, I always think about when think about opening the show, and I want to talk to the audience and, who are we? And then leaving the labels, right? Who we are. And, the way I was describing us this morning in my imaginary conversation before we went live is we are integrated consciousness coming together to share our wisdom, to share our voice, to share our consciousness with you, so that it will help you remember the truth of who you are.
That's perfect. And you just said something that I'm going to take separately out of what you just said. We simply are.
Yeah.
We are.
I love that. I have to say something about that. We are, you are, is a friend of mine who is no longer with us. He used to say to me, Kornelia, you are. You are. And this was like 12 years ago, right? He told me, you are. Very wise words. And this is something to remember. We are.
Yes, we are.
We are. Thank you, Colin and Pia, for being here today, for sharing your voice and your truth and your consciousness with us. And many blessings for this next journey, that we are all courageous to doing the next right thing that we're inspired to do.
Thank you for this stimulating conversation full of love and new ideas.
Thank you. Thank you, Colin. And thank you, audience, for listening. And we'd love to, hear of your victories as you make choices that reflect your truth. Okay, my dears, it's wonderful to be here with you. We'll see you all again next time. Take care.
In Lakesh.
I am the other you. I had to do that. Okay.